Hi, my name is Samantha Butler. Before we get started with anything, I just wanted to take some time to thank you very much for viewing this video. What you're about to see is my teacher website, as well as an amalgamation of my favorite work from my time at Medaille College in the teacher preparation program. What this video is for is to present my artifacts to you in a way that's really easy for you to understand, easy for me to demonstrate, but it's also to practice some teacher interview questions. Now, I get really nervous about interviews, so I thought let's get those out of the way first. And maybe I can come back to some of the questions a little bit later. So here's the first question. Briefly share a little bit about your background experiences that led you to choose a career in education. Well, perfect. My name is Sam. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I owned and operated a photo business for 10 years with my partner. We had a lot of fun doing it. And what is really amazing about a photo and video business is that it's seasonal. So in the off season, in the winter times, we actually were able to travel a lot. And while we were traveling, our kids turned school age and they became ready to go to school. Or we had the opportunity to home educate them. So I decided I would give that a shot. And I'm so glad I did. I looked over the Ontario curriculum for kindergarten and realized this is such an achievable curriculum. This is something that I can do, something I believe in, and something I can get behind. So I started working through the curriculum with my daughter. Well, sure enough, she turned into grade 1. My next daughter was in kindergarten, and I still found that it was a curriculum that was so achievable. There were objectives and goals and standards that I was able to meet by doing certain activities with my kids, and they were meeting the expectations that they should have been for their grade level. I had so much fun doing this that when we settled down in Hamilton, I started running little cooperative groups for other homeschool kids, outside in nature, meeting health goals, meeting literacy goals, meeting math and science goals. And someone said to me, I think what you should do is become a teacher. So when the COVID pandemic hit, our business took a pause, as did many others. And I decided it was time for adjusting my career a little bit. I enrolled at Medaille College and I got so excited about learning. Around this time, my kids were also enrolled in school because I can only do so much at once. And I learned that the school system is so fun. It is so great. The teachers are amazing. And I was even more excited to become part of that community. So a little bit about me. I love reading. I'm excited to be a teacher. I love writing and I love to travel. But most of all, I love to garden. What's really cool about my beliefs are I believe that children and working with children is just like tending a garden. So this past summer, I actually had the opportunity to work in a community garden with actual children at Powell Park in Hamilton, Ontario. Just tending the community garden, teaching kids how to pick the fruit, harvest the fruit, eat the fruit, what maybe they shouldn't eat, and they would have hot pepper eating contests. And we had a lot of fun together in a COVID safe way. And I was confident that I'm going in the right direction because working with children and gardening have so much in common. We have to take care of them. We have to tend them. We have to understand that they're going to have different outcomes, grow different fruit, and that it's going to look different. And we need to celebrate all of it, but also put the hard work in. Which leads me to a little bit about what I've learned at my teacher training program. Interview question 2. What have you learned in your teacher training program that will make you an excellent classroom teacher? So before I was learning about training to be a teacher, I didn't know anything. I just knew that I liked the curriculum and that it really fit with me. I did not know that classroom management was a need. All I knew was the old school way of flicking lights on and off and clapping our hands, and sometimes my teachers would yell. At Medaille College, I learned that classroom management is a partnership with families, it's a partnership with kids, and it's a really student-led experience. So you can see this actually in my website in a couple of ways. One artifact I'd like to point to is an interview with a classroom teacher, which you can view in the artifacts. And I really think that that's important because it shows my willingness to collaborate in a professional environment. But you can also see a get to know you page that I made for students that I would love for students to fill out in my class. And one of the questions that students fill out is, what is one classroom rule that you think we should have for our class? And I really want the kids to be able to share their ideas of how we should run the classroom. Now, ultimately, I think that it's all going to come down to a system of respect. We can all agree that we need to respect each other. But by taking the students' input and putting it together, we can see how we got to the final goal of respecting one another. I also think that classroom management is something that I learned about at Medaille, especially as we connect with parents. So I learned through my program that connecting with parents is a way to achieve classroom management because building trust and building relationships with families allows those families to buy into what you're doing in the classroom and help meet your goals, whether the goals are behavioral or they're educational. I didn't know that before I went to Medaille. I just thought that teachers and parents were separate. Part of the home educating misconception. So now I understand that we're really building a relationship. And again, you can see this reflected on my website with a for now, fictional family games night. I would love to get together with parents in environments that are really low key and fun. So I imagine pizza parties and games followed by parent teacher chats in a really informal setting to say, hey, I really see what your child is doing. I see what they're achieving. I also notice maybe they struggle in this way. Is there anything that you have noticed at home that might sound like that? Now we've built relationships, we've built friendships, and we're kind of working through there to improve our classroom management. So that's what I learned at Medaille that I definitely did not know before. I also learned about the importance of formative and summative assessments and the importance of students actually doing their own self-assessments. To me, that is my biggest takeaway at Medaille. We can assess students, we can give them wonderful rubrics, but they need to buy in. They need to know that what they're doing is important to them. So you can also see this in my website. I've created a virtual field trip about body confidence, imagining this is for a health class. And I've created something called a Jamboard, which is an interactive page that students can contribute on. And I've created some questions that students would anonymously be able to answer. Now, by sharing their answers together anonymously, I'm hoping that they can actually assess one another and be holding themselves to higher standards and expectations, but also see what other students are doing. These questions are really focused on mindfulness and they're focused on body positivity, which I think is an important trend right now in education. We are moving a lot in a lot of areas in the world toward focusing on mental health. And I know that that's really, really important right now in school, which actually leads me to the next interview question. How will your knowledge of the current trends in education inform you as an educator? So what I know right now is two things. One is that we need to be holding ourselves accountable as settlers in Canada, that we need to be taking care of our Indigenous students and our students of color. If nothing else, that is so important. That is what I've taken away from, oh my gosh, the last few years. That is incredibly important to me. I have been reading Christopher Emdin's book for white folks who teach in the hood, and Layla F. Saad, and all of the work that you can find online, Teach for the Culture. I've been learning about how we can be supporting students in school and sort of changing our expectations of what it is to be culturally responsive. Is it just filling our classroom with books that feature people of color? No, it is way further than that. It is creating a third space. It is inviting students to speak out. It is hearing them. And I think that my knowledge of the trends that are going on in education, but also in humanity, is really important for creating a classroom that is looking toward the future, toward reconciliation in particular. And I think that you can see some portfolio pieces that really reflect this. One of them is the social action literacy curriculum, which ties into my next question that I will touch on, which is provide us an example of a lesson plan that you taught and how did you integrate it with curriculum areas, address common core learning standards, technology, student engagement, motivation. So, and what were the response of the lesson? So here's what I'm going to share. This is my social action literacy unit. It is a source of pride for me because I had so much fun making it, but also because I got to share it in the Medaille Scholarship Symposium, and that is an honor. So it's a combination of 5 different lesson plans that see students as democratic citizens with a voice. Again, working in the vein of culturally responsive pedagogy, I believe, and I've said it here, every community holds unique opportunities for change. And the thing that I think is important is to not impose on children what that change needs to be. Just because something matters to me doesn't mean that that's what matters to them. And so the intention of this curriculum is for students to, I wrote in a quote from Boehmer in 2001, increase the scope of students' language about the political dimensions of life. They're taking a collectivist approach, a teamwork approach, and they're selecting causes in our community that are real and that mean something to them. So the big question is, how does this organization that I have chosen to partner with, I being any of the students, help people in the community feel more powerful or hopeful. So the students, what they essentially do is they got together, and I really was able to teach this in a virtual context. They got together and used literature, learning about Malala Yousafzai, about other people in the real world and what they have done, and shared together information about what's meaningful to them, how we can support Muslim culture in Canada, how we can imagine our change in the world, or what Malala calls a magic pencil. And we took these literacy skills and put them together to actually, I will scroll all the way down, create our own action plan for partnering with local community organizations. So through the whole plan, students research organizations tying in technology skills. They choose a local organization. My intent in a real classroom would be to take about 4 and sort of guide them towards one of 4, invite in those community members and work together with them to work with their magic pencil, make really big changes. So getting involved, contacting local MPPs, using Twitter and social media to reach out to Malala Yousafzai, for example. That was really something that we were able to do. And then we brought in art standards and we made paintings to discuss metaphors. We talked about language and built up set of vocabulary with words like sweetgrass and sharing circle and misunderstanding, to learn about how we can approach conflict resolution. So it's a really holistic curriculum. That's the intention. And it's a holistic lesson plan. And I do actually have some samples here that I would love to share with you, which you can view. So here's some work. Students were able to fill in vocabulary lists. This is actually from a real Zoom chat. Students would say if they had a magic pencil, they would draw the corona vaccine. And they would ask Malala what was the hardest part in speaking out. They would ask, one person said, I really want to change the world too. How can I start? Which I was touched by. Students wrote letters. Dear Malala, thank you for advocating for girls' education. In our country, Canada, we have education for girls. Other students were able to respond to the work by creating metaphors. I'm an octopus in an ocean. They were sort of sorting out some feelings following the coronavirus pandemic. Someone said, I'm a pickup truck. So, they're so creative. They responded to questions and said which organization they would choose to work with. Now, this student chose to work with one in Hamilton called Micah House, which houses refugees. And so I think it's really important to show how valuable children's voices can be, and how they can just really work hard in their own communities. So that's reflected in my artifacts. And I think the last question is, why should you hire me over someone else? So if you can't tell, I am a high energy person ready to work with youth and children. I love them. I love what they bring to my life, and I love what they teach me. I have personal experience. I have children of my own. I've been working in community gardens, working at camps, working in any context that I can with home educated kids. I personally sought out the Ontario curriculum independently and felt compelled to pursue it and teach it. I think it's good. I think it's a good curriculum. My educational background is strong. My GPA is 4.0. This is my second career. I'm serious. I'm committed. I'm capable. I've run a business. I'm doing this because I want to. And so I think it's really important for a teacher and for a part of your staff to know that I'm a continual learner. I'm a reader. I am a grower. I am always learning from my mistakes. I am learning from my experiences, and I want to add more. So I'm going to continue professional development. I have my eye on future goals. I would love to be a literacy specialist because I think that adds agency in children's lives. And I think that, the school board would really benefit from having me because I want to keep learning and growing. And I want to bring up communities. That's what I want to do. And I think that our school boards need people who seek to sort of, be a rising tide that lifts all boats. And that is definitely who I really want to be. So I would thank you so much for taking the time to view this. I really encourage you to look through the students section where you can see a little bit about what I share with students, some weekly lessons. I've even got one here. I would love for you to look at the parent resources and to get in touch with me if you feel that I might be a good candidate for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.